Hello everyone, I'm William Tapscott with the Taylorsville Crime Watch. I'm here to introduce Mike Wilson, the Public Information Officer from the Columbus Fire Department. Mike, what is a Public Information Officer and what does it do for the fire department?
Well, my role and responsibilities here with the department, I've got several. Well, one of the first roles of a public information officer is to release timely, accurate information, obviously, to the community. So in the event we have a big incident like a fire or a rescue type situation, my typical job will be to gather that information up and release a media release that will go to the news agencies here locally, and in some cases regionally. The Indianapolis television, the local newspaper and radio. So that's one of the big things I do. Another really big thing I do, as far as time consuming, is discussions with community groups. Do a lot of safety discussions at schools. Talk about fire department functions with different businesses. Fire safety talks. So and those are probably some of the most fun activities that I get to be involved with. So, and then of course anything the chief tells me to do, that's that's another responsibility of mine.
That's awesome.
Sure.
Mike is here to discuss general fire safety with the Bartholomew County residents, and I'm going to turn this over to you for the fire safety talk.
Excellent, thank you. We always enjoy the opportunity to discuss fire safety as it relates to our community. We feel we have a very safe community. Columbus is a wonderful community to live in, to work in, and we see the typical types of fire-related and emergency-related calls that you would for a community of our size. One of our biggest messages we talk about is fire prevention. And when you think about fire prevention, and we ask that question a lot when we're in a group, is what do you remember about the fire safety education you received in your lifetime? And most people will say things like stop, drop, and roll. They will have an answer pertaining to working smoke alarms, and they will, they'll say calling 911 is an important thing to know, and so those things, they tie those things into fire prevention, and then we kind of like to change the way we look at that. Although those are wonderful things to know, smoke alarms are important. Stop, drop, and roll can be important. And fire extinguisher use can be important, but really those aren't true fire prevention. Fire prevention is actually keeping that fire from occurring, so you don't need that working smoke alarm, so you don't need that fire extinguisher, so you don't need to stop, drop, and roll. And that's when we talk about keeping that fire from occurring, and that's where we look at how we act daily. What are potential ways we can have fires? Well, in our nation today, the number one cause of fire is cooking fires. By far, cooking fires occur more than any other type of fire. The second leading cause of fires in homes are heating fires. And this time of year, we expect that the fire volume will increase. But when you look at cooking fires, we'll use that as an example of prevention. A lot of times, fires occur by someone cooking and then they step away from what they're cooking. And that's distracted cooking, if you will. And so we talk about, well, how can we prevent that? Well, as a father, and if I've got kids at home, trying to keep those kids out of the kitchen while I'm cooking, that may be a prevention piece. Not answering that telephone while I'm cooking, that can assist us in that, that unmonitored cooking, which could lead to a fire. Cooking with grease and keeping the temperature at a correct level, that can prevent fires from occurring. You talk about another type of fire, which could be space heater fires this time of year. If you have items that are too close to a space heater, they can burn and will burn. So the prevention element of that would be make sure you have at least 3 feet of clearance around the area where you're going to have that. So that's really what we talk about more so than the stop, drop, and roll these days, is how we can actually prevent fires from occurring. And we feel that that's really going to help reduce the number of fires that we see here locally. So that's our message that we like to use these days. And we do that through our safety talks in schools. We do that through our social media, our Facebook page and our Instagram page. We do that through our press releases when we release information out. And events just like this, where we have someone from the community that wants to be involved in the public safety, and we can help get that message introduced to the community.
Oh, that's great. We had a couple of questions were sent into the Taylorsville Crime Watch, and this is from Amy and Tina. What do I need to know about smoke alarms?
Smoke alarms, that's a great question. Now I got to tell you, the questions that your viewers and your subscribers had were wonderful questions. But this is a great question, a question we commonly get. Smoke alarms are a very, very important tool for early fire detection. And that means if you have a working smoke alarm, your chances of surviving a fire in the home increase by 50%. A working smoke alarm, what you need to know is if you have a battery powered smoke alarm, that batteries need to be changed out at least once a year. If you have a hardwired smoke alarm that has a battery backup, you still need to test those and change that battery once a year. Every alarm should be tested monthly. Inspect the alarm, make sure that it doesn't have any cobwebs inside, and then where we want to install those. The installation of those is very important. We recommend that you install them either in a bedroom or near a group of bedrooms, perhaps in a hallway where you have multiple bedrooms. And that's important because most fires occur between the evening hours and your morning waking hours. Smoke alarms should be installed in a place where the smoke will react. So low on a wall would not work because obviously the smoke will rise. So we want those high on the ceiling or about 6 inches below the ceiling on a wall. Never in a corner. We always want to have that either in a flat wall area.
Accident injury, third party caller, Cody in the area of 500 North
something
State Road
about
9.
smoke is that it will, and it's very strange, it will avoid a corner. It will roll before it gets there, and sometimes the alarm won't activate. So, yeah, so that's always important. Have one on every floor of your home. One in the basement, living space, maybe upstairs, and they're a good idea in a garage as well. So,
How can we create a fire escape plan?
a fire escape plan is another important tool for home safety. We asked that question in a group. How many of you have an actual fire escape plan? And sadly, as we know, not a lot of families do have a working plan. But a plan is very simple. Anybody can create a plan. Really, the biggest things you need to know is the working smoke alarms are a great first start to the plan. Get that early warning of a fire. Then what you're going to need to do is know that obviously smoke is dangerous, so you need to get low and go. So everyone in the house should know, get below the smoke, try to get to an exit. Another element of that is everyone in the home should know at least 2 ways out of every room in the home. So if it's a bedroom, obviously our traditional way of exiting would be through the door. So in most cases, there's a window that could serve as that second way to exit. So we want families to look at their home floor plan and determine what those 2 ways out are. Another very important portion of this is having a safe meeting place designated outside the home. And that way every member of the family knows exactly where to go and then you can have an accountability of the family at that location. And then the last and probably most important piece, wait until you get outside to make that 911 call. Don't waste time on the inside. And then once everyone's outside, never go back inside to that burning building.
And this question came from Jonathan. Is there any certain time of the year home fires increase?
Yeah, that's another great question. You know, in this time of year, those winter months when we're using space heaters, we're using secondary heating sources, you know, that's the time of year when we see more fires. Space heater fires, electrical fires from you know, electrical systems that may be overworked. You know, people using potentially a kerosene heater inside of a home. You know, so the winter months from about November through March, actually, those are the months where fire activity nationally seems to increase.
And Jenny sent a question in. What is the best way to extinguish oil grease fires on my stove?
Well, oil and grease fires can be tricky, and if you use the wrong method to put out that fire, you know, it could potentially be a horrible outcome. We have got that question a lot in different discussions. And do you put water on a grease fire? And that is one of the absolute no-nos that we talk about. Putting water on a grease fire would just cause a very rapid expansion of that grease fire. So a couple different ways you can combat that type of fire. One way is to use a pan handle. If you're cooking in a skillet and you have a top for it, you could quite simply take that pan handle, use it, if you will, as a shield, and then cover that grease. There may be an element of danger involved in that, and we don't want anyone to be burned. So if you can't safely do that, we would definitely, you know, ask you to avoid that. So from that point, the alternative we would recommend would be a home fire extinguisher. The home fire extinguishers that we recommend having are the ABC style fire extinguisher. This is basically a universal fire extinguisher. You can get a 2.5 pound extinguisher all the way up to what we carry, which is a 30-pound extinguisher, which is not very portable. So the smaller are probably better suited for your residential settings. And when you apply the product, which is a dry powder, an ABC extinguisher will put out normal combustibles like wood and paper. That's the A portion. That's what A means. B is the B rating, which when you think of B, think barrel of oil. Grease fires would fall into that category, just like a gasoline fire. So that's what the B value stands for. The C value, think electric current. So those are for electrical type fires. So if you have a television on fire, an appliance on fire, perhaps a computer components that are on fire, that will be a safe extinguisher to use on all three types. So we call that the universal extinguisher. Safely use the pass method. We pull the pin, we aim the extinguisher, we squeeze the handle, and then we sweep side to side. That's how we use those. A very simple mnemonic for using that, the pass method. But you want to apply that product from a safe distance, see how it reacts with the grease fire, and then you can move forward to completely extinguish. So that would be our recommendation, is to use either the pan lid or the extinguisher.
That's good information. Let's see here. Debbie sent in a question. How often should I have my chimney inspected?
That's another great question, and we see a lot of smoke coming from chimneys as we drive through Columbus. That is something that should really be done annually. You know, some people don't use their chimney very often. They don't burn very often, and since that is the case, you know, those folks have the potential for less issues. But an annual inspection of a chimney should happen every year, and that just confirms that, structurally speaking, that it's all sound. That they're going to check for creosote buildup to see if you've got potential for a chimney fire, a flue fire, and then so if you need to make repairs, get that inspection done and make those repairs, and you'll have a safer burning environment.
Okay. We have another question come in from Mark. What is the leading cause of home fires?
So for residential, and we talked about this earlier, the national fire statistics show that cooking fires are the #1 cause. And really it makes sense. Most of us, we cook on a daily basis, so the potential's there. But that is the leading cause, and with that, unattended cooking seems to be the biggest factor involved. Just someone stepping away from the stove and just not monitoring what they're cooking.
AJ or Al sent in a question. How can I get a fire safety inspection on my home?
Okay, that's a great question too. And surprisingly, we don't get a lot of that question. We don't have many folks ask us that. Depending where you live in the county, whether it be here in Columbus, in the city, or German Township, Jonesville, Clifford, Elizabethtown, what you really want to do is contact your fire department and get a hold of your department and say simply, we would just really appreciate if you would come in, make an assessment of some potential fire hazards I may have, and then maybe give us some tips on how we can correct some of those things. If you are in the city of Columbus, obviously the fire department can assist with that, but we also have code enforcement here in the community that can assist with that as well. So just call your local fire department. That's always a really good place to start.
Okay, that's good. What do I need to know about carbon monoxide?
Well, carbon monoxide is a very dangerous gas, and it's odorless, it's tasteless, and you won't really be able to detect it without a carbon monoxide detector. What carbon monoxide is, it is a byproduct of incomplete combustion. So our vehicle exhaust, that is carbon monoxide. Let's say you have a gas furnace in your home, and I will just emphasize that this is from incomplete combustion of a gas, whether it be a gasoline or natural gas. So if I have an issue with my home furnace and I'm having incomplete combustion, then I've got the potential for carbon monoxide poisoning, which can be fatal. In a high enough or a extended dose, carbon monoxide will lead to death. So having an alarm, a carbon monoxide detector alarm inside your home is a great way to, once again, get that early detection. If you have one of those going off, you can call your local fire department or call your gas company. They can come out and do an assessment, try to locate where the problem is, and then from that we may have to shut down your gas to your home. We may have to shut down an appliance that we believe is causing that carbon monoxide leakage until some repairs can be made. So, but yeah, it's a deadly gas, and you're simply not going to know it's there. The signs of exposure can initially be fatigue, dizziness, maybe some nausea. As it progresses, those signs will increase, and potentially you could potentially have the vomiting. A prolonged or a large exposure of carbon monoxide will actually make the individual's skin red like a lobster, and that's an indication for us when we see someone that has that really red skin. We believe they've got a carbon monoxide exposure. So yeah, it can be dangerous.
Travis wants to know, what should I do if I cannot escape my home if it's on fire?
Okay. Well, you know, this is a tricky question because the situations could vary. Um, if you are inside of a home that's burning and you can't get out, obviously we would hope that someone would have called 911 and made that call to alert us so we can be responding as fast as possible. If it's a situation where you're in a third floor without a means of egress, you know, we would want you to try to remain as far away from the fire as possible. If you're in an area of a home and the fire is in let's just say the front of the building, go to the rear of the building. Keeping doors closed will confine the fire, and it will allow time for first responders to get there and execute a rescue. While you're in the area of the home you're in, you can attempt to make contact with passersby or the fire department as we arrive by simply yelling out of a window, taking a sheet or a pillowcase and trying to get someone's attention. There are devices now that they make which are ladders that you can purchase. They're either a rope or a chain ladder. You can purchase those and you can put them on a second or third floor window, and that will provide you a means of escape. If you're in a basement, you just want to try to keep yourself away from the fire, close any doors that you can, try to reduce the smoke, get low, and await the firefighters' arrival. I mean, really, those are the tips we would provide for that.
Okay. Daniel wants to know, how far away should my grill be from my home?
So you're using a gas grill or a charcoal grill, much like a space heater. You know, you want 3 feet around that device, clear of any obstructions. So at least 3 feet away from your home, from your siding. And then another thing, if you're on a balcony, just be cautious of using these grills. Think about the rooftop above you. If it's got a roof to the patio, just remember that heat is going to rise, and so keep at least 3 feet away from the building.
And do fire extinguishers need to be tested?
That's a good question. Fire extinguishers. Most of the fire extinguishers we could buy locally. We could buy those at Target or Walmart or Lowe's, Menards. They're going to have a indicator on them that basically says it's a small round charged or recharge indicator, and what that basically says is this thing is ready to go if it's in the green. If it needs to be recharged, then it will be in the red, which indicates a recharge. Most of those do have a expiration time, and that's going to depend on the manufacturer. It could be 5 years, it could be 7 years, it could be 10 years. It's just going to depend on which brand and who manufactured that. But as far as an inspection or tested, you wouldn't test your extinguisher, because once you actually discharge it, it absolutely has to be recharged. So if you wanted to test it and take it outside to make sure it would work, you would definitely have to recharge that following that. So in theory, if it's in the green on the indicator, it's good to go. And if it's in the red, it absolutely should be either replaced or recharged.
Okay. Darlene and Amanda would like to know washer and dryer fires and what to do if one does catch fire.
Okay. So yeah, washer and dryer fires, particularly dryers, you can have a dryer fire. And when we think about, well, how can we have a dryer fire? Most dryers collect lint from the clothing, and most dryers have a lint trap that can be cleaned out. Not to mention, most dryers have a vent pipe that some lint does go down into, and that can also be cleaned out. So an inspection of those on an annual basis is always a great idea. You know, you may have to pull that dryer out and see where the vent goes out of the structure of the home or the apartment. Make sure you clean your trap out every time you know you're going to run another load of laundry. And then what to do? What to do in that situation? It would be like any other fire. You would want to try to notify anybody in the home, get them out. If you felt that it was safe to attempt to use an extinguisher, then you could do that. But we always caution that we would prefer everyone to get out before putting yourself in harm's way. So you know, basically with some of those same safety tips in mind, we would do the same thing for those type of appliance fires.
Well, those are the end of our questions that we got sent in. Mike, is there any other information you'd like to share with the Bartholomew County residents?
Well, first, thank you very much for coming in and interviewing with me today. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate the opportunity to get the fire safety message out. And you know, we want residents to know that we're available. You know, anytime they have a question, they can contact us through our Facebook page. Columbus Fire Department, Indiana is our Facebook name. Through our Columbus Fire Department Instagram. We like to post a lot of photos on there. We have a website through the City of Columbus where we have basic safety information, and that's columbus.in.gov/fire. And you can simply find our page, and we've got contact information. We've got 6 fire stations, 95 wonderful firefighters. You know, we're covering 28 square miles of the City of Columbus. We averaged about 5,500 calls last year here in just the City of Columbus. We work very closely with our volunteer fire departments, our police officers, whether they be Indiana State Police, Columbus Police Department, Bartholomew County Sheriff's Department. We're all a big public safety family, and I think all would agree that our #1 mission is to keep our community safe and serve them the best way we can. And so we're available. Contact us through any of those avenues, or stop in and visit us at any of our 6 fire stations, and we'll serve you any way we can.
All right. I just want to thank you from the Taylorsville Crime Watch for allowing the interview and for your time in this.
Thank you.